Elevated Transmissions Podcast.
What's up, party people? It's Al Lover. Got a new Elevated Transmissions podcast for you. It's been a little bit, been busy doing other things. Had to get a real job because I'm broke as hell in this great state of Texas. And so I've been working a bit. Haven't been able to focus that much on editing the podcast for the last little bit, which I am slipping on, but we're back at you. Been doing a little more music too. Did a remix for the Swedish band that I can't tell you all about quite yet. Still in the beginning phases, but hopefully you'll be able to hear that soon. A really cool Swedish band that's got some weird psychedelic jazz, lounge, 70s B-movie vibes going on. So hopefully that's in the works of coming out. Just turned that into the label. I am more inspired. It's been a long time since I made some music. Been focusing a lot on this Pet Sounds comp since I've been here and trying to get this podcast up and moving, but I finally got to the point where I think that the music is coming back into my veins and I'm stoked. But anyways, so this week we got Shannon and the Clams on the podcast. They did a great version of I Just Wasn't Made for These Times. It's a really cool, minimalistic, sparse approach to that song with some really kind of left field experimentation that they involved with the recording of that song, and we talk about that. Some of Shannon's experiences working at the mental institution where the Cramps played back in the day. I can't remember the name of the mental institution, but she says it. I still have not seen the footage, which playing myself because I love the Cramps and I've known about it for a long time. But there's so much other stuff on YouTube and there's only so much time. Hopefully I'll get to it one of these days. But anyways, so yeah, this is my conversation with Shannon and the Clams, and talking about Pet Sounds, talking about just their creative process in making the I Just Wasn't Made for These Times track. So I hope y'all enjoy it, and here we go. Just a quick side note on this interview. The editing is a little weird. I recorded this at the house that Shannon and the Clams were staying at when they were in town for South by, I believe it was. And yeah, there's just some kind of high-pitched noise in the background that's kind of annoying that I tried to clip out here and there, but it seems to be omnipresent in the interview. So I apologize for that. I'm still kind of working out the logistics on recording the bands and how the best way to go about it is. Definitely need to get some better gear as time goes on, but DIY or die, guys, because you got ideas, you got to get them out, even if they're not perfect. And I know some of y'all are into that lo-fi. So this is a lo-fi interview with Shannon and the Clams. And I hope you enjoy it. All right. Does it feel like we're in a radio station?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right. I feel pretty professional now. It took a second. Guys, Shannon and the Clams, thank you so much for joining me here on this beautiful Austin afternoon.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank ya.
You're so very welcome.
Oh, I really appreciate y'all being involved with this compilation, and I was really stoked on the way the record came out, and just wanted to chat with y'all a little bit about the process of making the record and the influence of the Beach Boys with y'all's music and stuff. So, I mean, did you guys grow up with Beach Boys or Brian Wilson at all as kids?
I never liked the Beach Boys until
What?
I saw.
Oh my god.
I don't know why, but even when I was a kid, I didn't like it. I don't know. I
I
can't
I
even
have a
describe why,
confession.
but.
I'm not a big Beach Boys fan either.
Good God.
What's going on?
I've kind of told this to every band that's been involved. Like it was never my thing back in the day. And then so I got more into like their doo-wop references and stuff like that. I got more into like the black side of doo-wop and like the novelty records and stuff like that. So it never really resonated with me as much, but I appreciate it now, and I appreciate Brian Wilson, like what he did, and I like it more as I grow.
It's like it's so I actually love them now, but there was one specific moment. But actually, in reference to what you were saying, if you like get into black records and stuff, a, it feels like a very their version is like a very white version, you know?
That's
It's like
my issue with it.
but then it gets sort of like psychedelic and cool, right?
Oh yeah, no,
Like,
and I think that's kind of what I've come to understand.
there was a very specific moment when I watched a live performance of theirs that was filmed. It was like black and white, really beautiful. I just found it on YouTube and I watched this whole concert
Oh
of
wow.
theirs, and then I like loved it. I don't even know how to describe why, but it like made sense after I watched that.
What
live.
year was it from? Do you remember?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was they were really really young. It was probably 60s.
Okay.
Black
Wow.
and white TV performance.
What about the rest of you guys? What's the history?
I feel like when I was a kid, they were just some weird omnipresent thing that I didn't understand, you know? You heard like the Bermuda Bahama, come on pretty mama.
Of course, yeah.
You know, like that was like I thought of and like it wasn't until later I had a bandmate in another band I was in who was obsessed with the Beach Boys, and he broke it down for me and told me like all these factoids and played me all these songs. And I think that when I got Smiley Smile, I just like that one because it's like a never finished record, you know? It's falling apart. I like hearing all the like broken down versions of.
The slipping into insanity
Yeah.
of Brian Wilson.
That was the record that really sold me on them.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was later for me. I feel like all my friends who were big fans became fans when they were like 14 or 15, and I feel like well, up until later, most of the early stuff is such teenage themes.
Well, it's novelty records, you know. I mean, it's like surf is just a novelty term. It's not like these were surfers, you know. I think one of the dudes in the Beach Boys surfed or something.
Drummer,
maybe. Yeah.
What Wilson?
The
Really?
handsome one.
Dennis. Dennis
Yeah.
Wilson.
The ladies' man.
Yeah.
What about you, Shannon?
I feel like everyone's crazy. I've loved the Beach Boys since I was born, I think.
I came out the womb.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always loved it. And I feel like I kind of slowly discovered the weirder stuff as I got older. As I matured, I kind of got more into their weirder stuff. I definitely grew up loving all the hits, and then getting really into their more depressing songs, like In My Room and God Only Knows and things like that.
There's a lot of existentialism that starts popping into the mix, I think, with Pet Sounds, for
And
sure.
nihilism.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the song that you guys recorded, I think, is a perfect example of that.
That song's so sad.
It's so sad.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, I guess like growing up with the Beach Boys had such a presence in contemporary culture, like especially in the 80s and stuff with like we were talking about the movies that it was like in Teen Wolf and like I think Flight of the Navigator and like all these like quintessential childhood movies for me. I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm like 34. So it's like that's just like Beach Boys were everywhere.
Yeah.
They were on the radio all the time.
Full
and
House.
Full House, yeah, John Stamos. Did you see that, like, they played recently and, like, John Stamos came out and was, like, rocking the guitar with him?
Whoa.
Yeah, I saw some
Uncle
pictures
Jesse's
online.
back.
We were talking about bringing Stamos to the festival to maybe... No, I'm just kidding. Well, so how did you guys go about the process of the song? I mean, I think my favorite aspect of y'all's version is, I mean, I'm a big fan of like weird percussive stuff. So like the intro, like kind of like drum sound organ thing. What was that?
It's a synth. It's we it's we have the synth that we've been using a lot, and it's just it's an analog synth. It's got a ton of parameters, and we were just
Which one is it?
It's a mini brute.
Okay, I have a mini Moog.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm like delving. I think like everyone else at this point in time is like delving into the synth nerd thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, Did you guys you were just messing around and found that?
It was actually a real specific idea. I wanted to make it sound like wood blocks. I just thought it would be cool to have wood block sounds, so we were messing with the wood, trying to make it sound like wood blocks. We did it. We were playing a show. We recorded most of that synth stuff and the percussion stuff during a or like backstage at a show.
Really?
Yeah, it was at Great
That's-
American Music Hall, and we were backstage before the show was starting. And
That's tight.
I think it was New Year's, right?
It was New Year's,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I flew in to play that, and then we were just killing time backstage, and we recorded that. But I didn't even know what we were doing. We just brought the synthesizer out, and then me and Nate and Will were just messing around with it and made that.
It's
noise.
perfect. It worked so well, and I thought it was like a old vintage like drum machine, because they have those wood block sounds, the dook, 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 dook,
Yeah.
dook, dook. Like I love those shit.
Yeah,
those things.
we-
So like, I was like, wow, where'd they get the sound from? But-
Eventually, we all played it at once. We were. It was 3 people playing this tiny synthesizer, and we were just trying to make it. We were doing that wood block thing and arpeggiating it and making it weird.
It really sounds cool, and I think it gives it like the weirdness factor. It steps the weirdness factor up with the sound that you can't really describe. But I mean, I think you guys did like I wouldn't say like traditional version of it, but I would say that like for me being knowing you guys' music, and a lot of what I kind of associate with that is like the like really guttural growl of like the vocals a lot of times, which I remember the first time I saw you guys, I was like, oh, Shannon does like all the lead vocals, and then I was like, oh no, Cody's got like a similar register and a similar growl and stuff like that, but in this version, like you guys kind of tamed that down, and it was like a lot more of a tender kind of vibe with the vocals. You get the one good one in there. What made you like decide to kind of like, I guess like give it more of that mellow approach?
Well, I spent a lot of time alone, separate from everybody with the song, and I felt like I was studying it. I had to break it down, which it like took me days of figuring, like separating the layers and listening to all these different versions of the song and trying to figure out,
You had like a vocal only version, right? or
Yeah.
something?
which
Really? Where'd you find that?
a little website. It's called YouTube.com.
Oh yeah, they got
Yeah.
everything, huh?
Isolated vocal tracks.
Mm.
But man, there's so many more layers of vocals than you even think. There's lines in Spanish. Yeah, I know,
What?
right? Yeah.
Just like back in the mix.
Yeah, you should listen again. The falsetto voice during the chorus
Uh huh.
is Spanish.
Get the
But
fuck
like,
out of here.
no, seriously,
That's
there's so many
crazy.
hidden little nuggets in this song. I'll look it up.
Isn't it like Cuando Será and
No,
then
yeah,
and then Dia Será?
it's
Something
not
like that.
Sarah, but yeah.
No. Something like that.
That's
I don't know.
wild.
We'll look
Spanish.
it
I
up.
don't even know what I'm saying
That.
at all. But I remember recording it.
Well, that's for me. Like that's the aspect of like growing to kind of respect what Brian Wilson did from initially not being as much of a fan, but like understanding that it was like cool or whatever, but not being like that's my shit. It was like getting into this record and the post Pet Sound stuff. It's like the extreme insanity of it and the texture and like all these
The texture.
nuances and stuff is like it's insane to me. Like, and someone that could just like compose that in their brain, and then just like, okay, you guys, we're gonna like rent the band, and then
Yeah.
you know, come on through.
I guess that's why I didn't end up going super crazy all over it, because that was my original idea, because you wanted us to interpret the song.
Yeah, of course.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do my version. But once it came down to dissecting everything and separating each part and looking at it and then trying to put it back together in my style, it just felt like I was going to make it a huge mess.
Mm-hmm.
And the way, even just the way it's mixed, they do a really good job at, I mean, you can't even hear that Spanish, but if you took the Spanish out, the song would sound different.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, well, that's all. Like with all their vocal arrangements and the harmonies, like you can kind of see that. Like without those, it's not really anything, you know. And like listening to the instrumentals of those songs without the vocal harmonies on it, it like adds so much to the layers of the harmonies.
Yeah.
Like the guitar parts like sound weird on some of
Yeah.
these songs. Like it's just
When
Yeah.
we learned it, I went and found the chords for the song, and they are insane. It's just a string of
Yeah.
like cuckoo fringe, like really bizarro chords, you know. And it just doesn't stop. They just like there's a series of. So I didn't actually learn all of those because I didn't have time. But
I felt everyone was like in the process of learning the songs and just being like, holy
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, like what have we got ourselves into?
also, I mean, when I listened to this one when we were learning it, it seemed like it felt like probably one of the first times that a recording artist had unlimited studio time to just like do stuff.
Yeah,
to
and
just
unlimited
like add
money.
more
Yeah.
stuff. Because I don't know. I most like pop music, you listen to it and it seems very like they wrote it out very specifically, and it's like they laid it down. And this seems like they did a one pass, and then he just sat with it for like a few hours, and then did another thing on top, and then like kept going with it.
Yeah.
But I don't really know what happened.
That's what happens when you give crazy people money. I just another aspect I like is I feel like it's a real minimal kind of sparse situation, y'all's version, in terms of just the mix and like the percussive element, which is like it's super minimal. It's just
Yeah,
like
it's barely
yeah,
anything.
it's
I wanted during the, aside from the percussion that they added, I wanted the most of the beat to focus on that, like on the chorus when it comes in.
yeah. Yeah, just give it like more dynamic for the song. I think it makes it more impactful for sure.
Yeah.
And it just comes in and it's like four on the floor kind of like
Mm.
yeah.
That's just all of us jumping up and down on the ground.
In the back of the Great American Music Hall.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, you did apply some Brian Wilson-esque techniques to the mix. That's cool. I mean, so when do you guys remember, I guess individually, like kind of hearing Pet Sounds for the first time and being like, what's going on with this record? Like, or maybe you'd heard it a bunch, but then there was a point where you were just like, wow, I get what's going on here. Or was it a given? I don't know.
I remember when I first heard it, and realized it was different than all the old, more popular poppy stuff.
Sunshine.
Yeah.
Everything's fun and great.
It definitely has a dark cloud over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got so obsessed with that album when I was probably 19, and I worked in a mental institution, and I listened to it all the time, and I played it at work all the time, and everyone liked it, I guess.
Oh yeah, of course. That's great. When did you work? What, you worked in a mental institution?
Yeah, I worked at Napa State Hospital. It's like, did you ever see the Cramps live at Napa State?
I have not seen that footage though. I know that it exists.
Yeah, I worked there.
Is it on YouTube?
Yeah.
All right, I need to check that out. I remember hearing a lot about that particular thing though. So why did they play there? What was the thing?
I don't know exactly why they played there.
I mean, I assume like Lux was just like, yeah, we should just play at a
Let's play a mental institution.
institution.
That could never happen now.
Good
because-
reverb on those like
Yeah.
in those walls.
I don't know. My mom worked there at the time, but she was on maternity leave
Wow.
with one of my brothers. I don't know how they got away with it, but back then it was it was more of a hospital for crazy people where they had to keep them kind of behind some walls, but they weren't necessarily very dangerous or criminals. But when I worked there, it was a hospital for the criminally insane. So basically, prison for
Whoa.
mentally ill people.
That's heavy, dude. So like you like put it on and like all the inmates would like chill out and kind of mellow out when the record was on.
Yeah.
Because I have this like image in my mind of you just being like everyone just kind of having like a great time listening to the Beach Boys.
Well, I would always bring this like big zip up thing of CDs to work, and always try and put my music on. It would always get taken off. There was just a few things I could play. I could play the Supremes and the Ronettes, and I could play Led Zeppelin, and I could play that Beach Boys Pet Sounds.
So no like Ministry or.
I
Nine
would
Inch
get
Nails
Ministry taken off all the time.
It's like they're getting a little violent in the rec room, guys. Can we just not play the industrial stuff?
There was a guy that had a huge Soundgarden tattoo, like wrist.
Yeah, I would say he belongs in a mental institution.
I wonder if there's got to be more than just one Soundgarden tattoo
Oh,
floating
dude.
around, right?
I bet there's so many lower back tramp stamp Soundgarden tattoos.
Really?
Because they had like they're like wasn't their logo kind of like it was like a tribal kind of thing or something? They had.
I think they had a one tribal vibe.
Yeah, there was a
thing,
tribal
yeah.
vibe for sure. Oh man.
Pretty Noose is still a really good song, though. Just in case you guys were wondering.
You know, I never really. I think I remember when like what was it, Black Hole Sun or whatever was
Uh-huh.
out. I remember I bought that cassette from a buddy of mine for
How
his
much?
birthday. How much was the
How
cassette?
much did you pay?
Oh, I don't know, whatever a cassette cost at the time.
I
Probably
don't remember.
10,
$12.99
probably $12.99.
at the warehouse.
Well, yeah. Sorry, guys, I'm kind of out of it this morning, so I apologize if I'm not being super inquisitive or doing
Sharp
the,
reporting.
Yeah, I'm not on
Razor
point
sharp.
right now. Yeah, I need to go get a couple more hours of sleep. But
That's fine.
I think that this is good. And did you guys have anything else you wanted to discuss about this particular situation?
No, I was really excited to do it, and it's amazing that he's coming to Levitation to play is a big deal.
That's
Yeah,
a big deal.
I think so too, and I think for me, like, to be involved to kind of like help arrange this and get the whole thing together was like an honor, like, and to have you guys involved was definitely great because I've been seeing you guys play around the Bay for years and really thought that it would be like a good fit, and I think you guys did a great job, and I really appreciate it so much.
Thanks. I felt so lucky to get asked. We felt like we didn't belong or fit in or something when we
What?
played Psychfest. I don't know why. And
Why?
some people like thought so too.
Really?
Yeah,
see,
but at the same time, it also felt so right.
See, yeah, I don't know. I think with what the festival did, like kind of rebranding to be like Levitation, I think they want to open up the umbrella to, I can't speak for them personally, but I think this is kind of how they did. It's like they want to have like all these different types. They want to have like ambient experimentalism and then like have like a hip hop thing or like, a rock and roll thing, but all like under the umbrella of like this is spawned out of the psychedelic age of experimental
That's
music,
something I really
you know?
liked about it.
Yeah. And I think it can be that, and I think a lot of the people that listen and are fans of the festival are music lovers with that appreciate a bunch of different genres. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think you guys are a perfect fit, and definitely for the comp for sure.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you taking some time to chat with me about this.
You're very welcome.
All right. Peace. So yeah, y'all, that was that. Shannon and the Clams. Great people. Very highly entertaining. Love the music. Love that band. I mean, I've been watching that band since, I don't know, 2010-ish, maybe? I don't know. It's them being a staple around the Bay Area when I lived there. Saw them, I don't even know how many times at so many great venues, and it was always a pleasure. And they're just fantastic musicians. They make fantastic music. They got the new record, Gone by the Dawn, out on Hardly Art, a really great label, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. So go purchase their new record, buy their music. I'd say stream it, but I don't know. I'm not really sure of the breakdown. Anyway, just listen to music, share the music. But yeah, so check them out. They got the song on the Pet Sounds compilation we did with Levitation, so you can get that compilation at levitation/austin.com. That's where you want to pick that up, and you should get it because there's only 2,000 pressed, and that's all we're probably going to press because you got to keep them limited. Keep it limited, keep it boutique, and hopefully we'll do more stuff like this in the future, so, support the cause. But yeah, so this is me signing out. I really appreciate y'all listening in and being interested in these nerdy conversations about the Beach Boys and Pet Sounds and the bands that were involved. All of the bands that did have a part in this compilation. I'm really just so stoked to have worked with them in this capacity, and support those bands. Go see them when they come through the town that you live in, buy their merch, do all that stuff that makes you a good supporter of independent music, as you should. So yeah, until next time, we got a few more of these in reference to the Pet Sounds compilation, and then we're going to start rolling out some with bands just talking about the bands. And we got a few of those lined up, interviews coming up soon. So stay with us and stay tuned, and we will continue to bring you more engaging conversations about music nerddom. All right. I love y'all, and thank you so much for just checking out this podcast and your continued support. I appreciate it. All right. Peace.